Sophie came to university chasing her dreams. But some days, she just wanted to go back home. This is a story every university student will understand. The bus rolled slowly through the busy city roads, while Sophie sat quietly by the window, holding her admission letter tightly against her chest. Outside, people hurried through their morning routines. But inside her heart, everything felt suspended in time. Sophie walked through the tall university gates with her suitcase rolling behind her. The morning sunlight rested gently on her braided hair as students rushed past confidently. There she was in the university, a new phase she has to face. The hostel hallway buzzed with voices and footsteps, while Sophie carefully carried her bags into her new room. Suddenly, the door burst open and a cheerful girl walked in laughing loudly, while struggling with too many bags. That was her new roommate, Jody. That first night felt longer than expected. Sophie lay awake staring at the ceiling while distant music echoed outside. It was her first lecture. The lecture hall was enormous. Sophie clutched her notebook tightly as voices echoed loudly around her. Later that afternoon, Sophie wandered around campus with a folded map she barely understood. The cafeteria was loud and crowded, but Sophie sat quietly alone with a small tray of food. Sophie nervously attended a student club meeting and quietly sat near the edge of the room. After the meeting, an older student noticed Sophie standing quietly alone. He was nice with his words. He was a great mentor. A red mark stared back at Sophie from her first quiz paper, and suddenly her confidence felt smaller. But her roommate smiled gently and said, "You failed one quiz, not your whole future." That night, Sophie wiped her tears, opened her notebook again, and promised herself she would keep going. The library slowly became Sophie's safe place. In the quiet corners between bookshelves, she began rebuilding her confidence. During class one morning, the lecturer asked for volunteers. Sophie's heart raced, but slowly, she raised her hand. Working with others wasn't easy. Different opinions clashed loudly, but Sophie listened carefully instead of arguing. At the cafeteria, Sophie counted the few coins left in her purse and realized that campus life was teaching her responsibility. Sophie attended a night party. The music was loud, the lights were bright, but deep inside, Sophie felt uncomfortable. She stepped out, choosing peace over peer pressure. Standing outside beneath the stars, she realized that strength was not about fitting in. Finding an identity was not about belonging, it's about becoming. Her mentor smiled gently and said, "Resilience is falling and rising again." Late nights became normal. Coffee cups piled beside notebooks, while Sophie kept pushing herself forward. One afternoon, Sophie patiently helped a struggling classmate understand the lesson. As rain poured across campus, Sophie quietly smiled and realized this place was beginning to feel like home. At sports day, Sophie laughed freely as her sneakers carried her across the field. At the end of the semester, her lecturer praised her improvement in front of the entire class. One stressful week, a misunderstanding broke the laughter between Sophie and her roommate. Days later, Sophie apologized softly, and soon laughter returned to the room again. Assignments piled endlessly on Sophie's desk, and for a moment, exhaustion almost defeated her. Exam season arrived like a storm, filling the entire campus with pressure and anxiety. As fear slowly crept into her mind, Sophie remembered her mentor's words, "Failure is part of success." The exam paper rested before Sophie, but this time, her heart remained steady. The waiting period felt endless as students refreshed their portals again and again. Finally, the results appeared. Sophie stared at the screen before relief slowly filled her face. She'd passed with flying colors. Weeks later, Sophie stood nervously behind a podium, ready to share her journey. After the speech, several students approached Sophie and thanked her for inspiring them. As graduation grew closer, Sophie finally understood that campus life was never only about grades. She sat beneath the old tree and wrote softly in her journal, "Campus is where you find yourself." The final semester passed quickly, filled with laughter, photos, shared meals, and unforgettable memories. Excitement filled the campus air as students prepared for graduation day. One night, Sophie and her roommate laughed together while remembering how their journey first began. Before graduation, Sophie quietly thanked her mentor for believing in her. As graduation day arrived, memories rushed through Sophie's mind like scenes from a movie. Families cheered loudly as Sophie proudly walked across the hall to the graduation stage. Standing before the crowd, Sophie spoke calmly about resilience, friendship, and growth. Sophie wept as she bid farewell to her roommate. Was it really goodbye after school days? As the sun slowly set, Sophie stood quietly at the university gate and looked around one final time. With her luggage beside her and hope inside her heart, Sophie walked forward into the future.